The first thing you notice is the stillness. The desert has a way of silencing even the idea of time. You sit upright in a metal chair, one of those folding types that creak when you move, and feel the weight of air pressing down. Heat wavers through the small ranger outpost. 4 walls, 1 fan, and a clock that doesn't tick. You don't know how long you've been here. The fluorescent light above hums a tired tune, flickering in the same rhythm as you're breathing. There's dust everywhere. Fine enough to taste, thick enough to hide fingerprints. Someone has written your name in it. The man across from you says nothing. He's not in uniform. No badge, no visible authority. But his silence fills the space like gravity. You think he's waiting for you to speak first, but that's the trick. Silence can be a question. Your throat is dry, and you realize the water bottle on the table is half empty. Not yours. You remember a gas station, maybe yesterday, or a dream about one. Megan was there, walking away into the distance, her red scarf trailing like a signal you didn't catch in time. You blink hard and the image dissolves into sand. The man's not writing anything. You want to ask where Megan is, but the words don't come out right. Instead, you say, "Is this about her?" He looks up. "You tell me." It's the first thing he's said in an hour, maybe longer. His voice is measured, steady, each word placed on the table like an exhibit. You catch a reflection in the window. 2 figures, yours and his, separated by an invisible horizon. Outside, the desert breathes. You can hear it, the low hum of wind through dry grass, the metallic chime of heat against the tin roof. Somewhere out there, the sand remembers footsteps that didn't make it back. You try to recall the last thing Megan said. Something about the map. The one folded into quarters in the glove compartment. The one with a circle drawn around a section of Route 93. You remember laughing, a nervous, hollow sound because she said the circle looked like an eye. You didn't think she'd keep walking after the car stalled. But she did. East, she said, because east means light. You press your palms flat on the table, trying to anchor yourself to the present. The table is warm, too warm, as if it's been sitting under the sun for hours. Your mind drifts again. The horizon is bending. The room and the desert blur into each other, color drained into a monochrome haze. The man speaks again, quietly. When you close your eyes, what do you see? You hesitate. You think of telling him the truth, that you see the line of her shadow breaking against the dunes, that you see the shimmer of air bending her shape until she disappears. But the truth feels too fragile to touch. So you lie. "Nothing," you say. He nods, as if that's the answer he expected. Silence returns, this time heavier, and you notice something strange. Your reflection in the glass doesn't move when you do. The fan clicks. Once, twice. You glance at the clock again. Still no ticking. The second hand trembles but never moves. You realize, suddenly, that the hum isn't from the light at all. It's from the tape recorder on the shelf, its red eye glowing faintly in the heat. Someone's been recording, maybe all along. You shift in your chair, and the man mirrors the motion, leaning forward, elbows on the table. His gaze is steady but unreadable. You wonder how many times this has happened before. The same questions, the same silence, the same dust settling over the truth. He slides a photograph across the table. Megan, smiling, desert wind in her hair, eyes squinting against the glare. The background is endless beige. "She was found?" You ask, your voice cracking on the last word. He doesn't answer. You look at the photograph again, and something feels wrong. The shadow behind her is yours. You inhale sharply, and for a second, the air smells of gasoline and sunburnt metal. The outpost dissolves around you. You're back on the roadside, the car hood open, the desert spilling into every direction. Megan's voice again, "Keep walking east." But east leads nowhere here. Only heat and mirage. When you open your eyes, you're back in the chair. The fan hums. The man has written something in the dust on the table. Megan Flores, east. He closes his notebook and says, "We'll start from there." Outside, a wind kicks up, lifting sand into the shape of something that almost looks human before it scatters. You watch it fade, then exhale, finally hearing the clock begin to tick again. Slow, reluctant, as if time itself has decided to remember you. The man presses play on the recorder. Your own voice echoes back. Is this about her? The tape clicks off, and the silence that follows has a shape, wide, dry, and endless. You don't realize you've been holding your breath until your chest aches. The man across from you leans back, his chair sighing against the floor. He studies you with the patience of someone who's done this too many times. You ever notice, he says, how heat can trick the eyes? You nod without meaning to. The air in the room feels swollen. The fan hums like a tired insect, its rotation slow and hypnotic. Through the window, the desert stretches flat, a mirage shimmering where the horizon meets the sky. The longer you look, the more it seems alive, moving, folding, reflecting light in patterns that almost make sense. He sets a new tape in the recorder. The soft click echoes like a gun being cocked. Let's start simple. When did you last see her? You answer without thinking. Midday. Maybe 1. The word maybe hangs there, too light to hold. He writes it down. The sound of his pen scratches through the air like sand against glass. She said she was fine, you continue. But the heat was different that day. It wasn't sunlight, it was something else. Like the ground was exhaling. The man nods. And you stayed with the vehicle? You glance at your hands. They're cracked with dry lines, dust etched into the folds of your palms. I thought she'd be back in an hour. He watches you as if waiting for the moment when your certainty fractures. You feel it coming, the contradiction between what you remember and what you know must have happened. Memory, you think, is just the body protecting itself from too much truth. The man doesn't move, doesn't blink. His stillness becomes the room's anchor, and you start talking again just to fill the space. She had that scarf on, red, said it kept the sun off her neck. But I think she wore it because she wanted to be seen. He leans forward slightly, a mirroring tactic subtle enough to feel like empathy. Seen by you. By someone, you say. By the desert, maybe. She said it was listening. The man's expression doesn't change, but you can feel the question rising behind his silence. You try to ignore it and keep talking. The hum of the fan deepens. It sounds almost like breathing now. You describe the long road, the empty highway that split the valley like a scar. You remember the sound of gravel under her boots. The desert had been quiet except for that, the rhythm of her steps fading toward the heat shimmer. You didn't follow. You told yourself she'd be fine. You told yourself that over and over until it sounded true. The man breaks the silence with a voice too calm for the words it carries. Do you believe she meant to come back? You want to say yes, but your throat betrays you. The word catches, dries out. You nod instead, though even that feels dishonest. He writes something else down, then turns the tape recorder toward you. Describe what you see when you close your eyes. You hesitate, but the air in the room feels too heavy to hold the lie this time. Light, a wave of it, the kind that bends the road, and her shape inside it, getting smaller. The man repeats your words softly, looping them back in his voice. Her shape inside it, getting smaller. You close your eyes. The fan's rhythm syncs with your heartbeat, and suddenly you're back out there. The air thick, the sun a white coin in a sky with no edges. Megan turns once, her face half-shadowed. Her lips move, but no sound carries. Then she's gone, swallowed by the shimmer. You open your eyes and find the man watching closely. He doesn't look away. Do you remember what you did after? You look toward the window again. The desert beyond the glass ripples like a reflection on water. I waited for the light to change. He tilts his head. Did it? You shake yours. No. It never changes out there. It just hums. The man sets his pen down and folds his hands, an anchoring gesture. Tell me what the hum says. You try to laugh, but the sound comes out brittle. It says I should have gone with her. For the first time, he blinks, slow and deliberate. And why didn't you? Your tongue feels heavy. Because I thought she wanted to be alone. He mirrors your posture again, elbows on the table, leaning in. And now, you swallow. The answer arrives like heat on metal. Now I think she already was. The man exhales through his nose, a quiet sound that could be agreement or exhaustion. The tape spins, catching the faint buzz of electricity. Outside, a dust devil spins across the horizon, twisting itself into nothing. He stops the recorder and lets the silence breathe. "We'll pick this up again," he says. You don't respond. The desert outside seems to pulse with each heartbeat. A mirage so steady it begins to look real. For a moment you think you see her again. A red flicker far out in the dunes, walking east. You blink and it's gone. The man stands, collecting his notes. The fan clicks off. The silence it leaves behind is so complete it almost hums. The next session begins with no warning, no door opening, no footsteps, no greeting. Just the sudden weight of presence. You lift your head and find him already there. Same shirt, same stillness. The tape recorder blinks a red pulse like a heartbeat left behind. The desert outside hasn't changed. You can tell by the light, not by the clock. The sky burns white, the kind of white that eats all other color. Somewhere in the distance, a generator drones, fading in and out, like the sound of memory rewinding itself. He says, "We're going to try something different today." His tone is neutral, the same calm that lives at the edge of anesthesia. You nod, though you don't understand. "It's called guided recall," he continues. "You close your eyes, describe what you remember. I'll loop it back to you in the present tense. You'll correct anything that doesn't fit." You hesitate. "So you'll repeat what I say?" "Not repeat," he says. "Reflect." That word lands like heat. You close your eyes. "Start with the sound," he says. "The sound?" "Yes, what you heard right before she left." You listen inward, toward the hum beneath your skull. "Wind," you whisper. "And gravel." The car cooling down. He echoes softly, "Wind, gravel, cooling metal." You continue, "She said she was fine. Said it wasn't far." "She is fine," he repeats, adjusting the verb. "It isn't far." You open your eyes, startled. The present tense feels wrong, too alive. The air shifts, as if the words themselves altered the temperature. "Good," he says. "Now, what color was the light?" You pause. The question feels dangerous. "White, but not clean, like it had weight." He loops it. "The light is white. Heavy." You feel it pressing on your chest now, that heavy light. A mirage taking form inside you. "She took the scarf off," you add suddenly. "Said it made her too hot." "She takes the scarf off," he says. "She is too hot." You can smell dust again. That dry, electric scent that lives between rock and air. The fan hums overhead, steady as a pulse. You realize you're gripping the edge of the table. "She walks east," you whisper. "She walks east," he mirrors. You watch. You nod, eyes still closed. "Yes." "You do not follow," he adds. You flinch. "No." She looks back. "Yes." "And?" She smiles. You open your eyes. The man is closer now, his voice barely a breath away. His hand rests on the recorder, but he's not touching the button. You wonder if it's even recording anymore, or if it ever was. "Why does she smile?" he asks. The room feels smaller. The hum louder. You can't think. "Because she thinks I'll come after her." He lets the silence linger. A psychological loop meant to stretch guilt into confession. You've seen it before in training videos in other rooms. But it works all the same. "I didn't," you say finally. "I waited." He nods once, and for a moment you think you see something like pity in his face. "And when she didn't return?" "I went east, but there was nothing. No prints, no scarf, just wind." He repeats, looping again. "You go east. There is nothing. Only wind." You close your eyes again. The sound grows louder in your ears. Not wind now, but static. A whisper of voices caught inside the tape. You recognize your own, looping faintly. "She walks east. She walks east. She walks east." You open your eyes, breathing hard. "Do you hear that?" He doesn't answer. The tape keeps spinning. You stand up suddenly, the chair scraping against the floor. "You heard it. My voice. It's repeating." He looks up, his face unreadable. That's how recall works. Sometimes memory plays tricks. You stare at the recorder. The red light isn't blinking anymore. You reach toward it, but he stops you with a soft, precise word. Don't. The word lands heavier than a hand. You freeze. He straightens his papers, calm again. We'll stop here, but you're not done. The words come out before you can stop them. It wasn't an accident. He looks up, expression flat. What wasn't? You hesitate. Her leaving. The silence that follows feels stretched too thin to hold. Go on, he says. She wanted to disappear. He leans back, watching. Or you wanted her to? The contradiction between thought and action tears through you. You shake your head. I wanted her safe. He nods slowly, as if cataloging your lie. Sometimes safety looks like absence, he says. Sometimes people build distance when they can't build truth. You don't answer. You're watching the window. The reflection in the glass moves out of sync again. You stand and take a step closer. The desert wavers. A sea of heat, rippling with the memory of footsteps. You think you hear her laugh, faint but real, carried on the shimmer. When you turn back, the man is gone. Only the chair remains perfectly still. The tape spins to its end, whispering static like sand sliding across bone-dry ground. And then, in the static, your own voice, delayed, distorted, murmurs back. She walks east. You don't remember saying it. When you open your eyes, the light has changed. The sky outside the small ranger window is the color of rusted glass. The sun half swallowed by a storm that isn't yet a storm. Heat still breathes through the cracks in the wall, but the air has turned electric, uneasy. The man sits across from you again. Closer this time, elbows on the table, chin tilted down as though studying a reflection. You wonder if he's been there the whole time or if he only exists when you remember him. He doesn't say hello. He just pushes a single photograph across the table. Megan at the gas station, head tilted toward the horizon, eyes squinting against the glare. Behind her, the road curves into nothing. You said this was the last place you saw her, he says. His tone isn't accusatory, but something colder, procedural curiosity. You nod. The metal chair shifts beneath you, a sound like a hinge straining. The van was overheating. We stopped for water. He writes something down. You catch the flick of his pen, 3 short marks, evenly spaced, like coordinates. Describe the station. You take a breath. 1 pump, closed shop, the kind of place that looks like it's been abandoned for years. But it wasn't? No, there was someone there. A man. The interrogator mirrors your posture, leaning in slightly, the psychological rhythm tightening like a loop. What did he say? You hesitate. He didn't say anything. He waits. Silence has become his sharpest tool. He just looked at us. You add voice low, then turned and walked behind the building. When we drove off, I didn't see him again. The fan hums overhead, its lazy rotation stuttering every few seconds, matching the pulse in your throat. You hear a faint rattle, glass against metal, as if the storm outside is trying to find a way in. Tell me about the scarf, he says. You blink. What about it? You said she took it off in the heat. Yes. Did she leave it at the station? You shake your head. She tied it to the antenna. Said she wanted the wind to remember her. He stops writing. The wind. You realize how strange that sounds. But it's the truth. She said it was alive. That the desert had eyes. He doesn't respond. He's staring past you now at the window. You follow his gaze, nothing but the shifting haze of sand. Still, for a moment, you both act as if someone might be standing there, just out of focus. He folds his hands on the table. When she walked away, did you call after her? You open your mouth to say yes, but what comes out is silence. You can still see her figure dissolving in the heat. 1 step, then another, until she was less a person than a mirage. She told me not to, you finally say. Not to what? Follow. He studies you. And you obeyed. You nod, but the gesture feels wrong. Too rehearsed. He notices. His eyes flick toward the tape recorder, then back to you. The first session, he says. You mentioned a circle on the map. Do you remember that? You do. The map in the glove compartment, the one she'd drawn on in red ink. A circle enclosing a patch of nothing. No towns, no landmarks, just open desert. She said it was an old riverbed. You whisper. Do you believe that? I don't know. He lets out a slow breath and mirrors your movement again. Elbows on the table. The tactic is so subtle you almost don't notice it this time. What do you believe happened to her? The question isn't new, but it lands differently now. Maybe it's the heat, maybe it's the quiet that follows. You stare at the photograph again. Megan's shadow falls long and thin behind her, but when you look closer, it bends the wrong way, pointing east instead of west. Your pulse stutters. This photo. The light's wrong. He doesn't answer. You look up. He's watching you carefully, waiting for you to see it on your own. You push the photo back toward him. It was taken after she left. He says nothing. His reflection in the window doubles, faint and still. Who took it? You ask. That's not what we're here for, he replies. You lean forward now, mimicking him without meaning to, the mirrored dynamic reversed. Then why am I here? He folds his notebook shut, the sound crisp as breaking paper. Because you're the last one who saw her. The words hang between you, too obvious to hold weight. You try to remember if anyone else was at the station, the man who walked behind the building, the flicker of another car. But the memories won't stay still. They ripple, rearrange. You press your palms to the table to ground yourself. It's warm again. Always warm. Tell me, you say. What's east of here? He tilts his head slightly. What do you think is? You want to say the truth. That every night you dream of walking that direction, of finding her shadow etched into the sand, of hearing her voice in the static hum. But you just shake your head. Nothing, you say. He nods once, an affirmation or an agreement, you can't tell which, and stands. Tomorrow, he says, we'll listen to the tapes. As he moves toward the door, you catch a glimpse of his notebook. On the open page, he's written a single phrase in small, careful letters. East is returning. The door shuts. The room hums. You stare at the reflection in the window again and realize the faint outline of a second figure. A woman's silhouette is standing just behind your own. You turn. No one there. Only dust and heat. Still, you whisper her name, softly enough that only the desert can hear. Megan. Outside, thunder rolls. There's a glass of water waiting on the table when you walk in. Condensation runs down its side, cutting trails through the thin film of dust. The man sits in the same place, same stillness. It's as if he never left, only paused. Drink, he says. You do. The water is warm and metallic, tasting faintly of old pipes and something else. Rust, maybe. Or memory. You hold it in your mouth a moment longer than necessary, as if it might help you remember how to feel human again. He leans back, fingers steepled. You said she tied the scarf to the antenna. You nod. What color was it? Red. He glances down at his notes. You said that before. You watch him, trying to find movement in his stillness. You don't believe me? He shrugs slightly. Belief doesn't change the record. You look down at your reflection in the glass. Distorted by the ripples, heat-warped, unfamiliar. The fluorescent light overhead flickers, cutting the reflection into pieces. I saw it, you say. It was waving in the wind. The same wind she said could see her? You hesitate. Yes. He stands and walks toward the window. The desert outside is a pale, endless bruise of light. The storm has shifted south, leaving the air still and heavy. You ever wonder what she meant by that? Every day. He turns, eyes catching yours. And what do you think she meant? That she didn't feel invisible out there. He nods once, slowly. And here. You don't answer. You're not sure if he's asking about this room or something larger. The tape recorder clicks on again. A sound so soft it feels accidental. The man doesn't reach for it. He just keeps watching you. Tell me what you remember after the gas station, he says. You close your eyes. The road stretched out ahead, flat, blinding. The air shimmered like glass. She said we were close. To what? You shake your head. She didn't say. You said before there was a circle on the map. Yes. What was inside it? Nothing. Just desert. He tilts his head. Then why circle it? The contradiction sticks in your throat. You sip from the glass again, more for time than thirst. Maybe she was looking for something. What? Something that used to be there. He repeats your words softly, a mirroring echo. Something that used to be there. You stare at the condensation running down the glass, the slow, delicate trails it leaves, the way they disappear into the ring of dust on the table. It feels like a small version of the desert itself, endless, quiet erosion. She was searching, you add, but she never said for what. He steps closer. People who disappear are usually searching for two things: a place or permission. Permission, he nods, to stop being found. The thought crawls beneath your skin. You think of her last words, the way her tone had shifted. Keep walking east. It hadn't been instruction. It had been invitation. You look at him. You think she wanted that? I think she understood it. The tape hums softly, filling the silence between you. You hear faint static again, like the whisper of sand against metal. He sits down, folds his hands. You said the wind changed direction that day. East to west. I think so. You're not sure? No. He picks up the glass, studies it. Then why do you remember the scarf moving east? The question stings. You feel your pulse climb. Because that's how it was. He doesn't argue. He just looks at you, calm, patient. The same tone he's used to dismantle every version of your memory. You think I'm lying? You ask. I think memory and heat don't mix well, he says. You reach for the photograph again, but he's already turned it over. The back is blank except for a small handwritten note. East, 1:07 p.m. You don't remember seeing it before. He pushes it toward you. Does that time mean anything to you? You shake your head, but something inside you recognizes it. The moment the shadow of the car crossed hers, the second the light shifted, when she smiled and stepped into the glare. You whisper, "That's when she vanished." He leans forward, voice low. "No, that's when you stopped watching." The air between you thickens. The hum grows louder. You realize your fingers are trembling against the glass. He mirrors you again, a perfect, deliberate copy of your movement, and it breaks you. "Why are you doing that?" You snap. "Doing what?" "Mirroring me." He doesn't answer. Instead, he says, "You see yourself clearer that way." You want to speak, but the room is too small for words. You stand, turn toward the window. The desert has swallowed the road. Nothing but glare and dunes now. In the glass reflection, the man's still seated. But there's a second reflection beside him. Faint, female, leaning forward. You blink. The image wavers. Megan, the name escapes like breath. The glass in your hand slips and shatters. Water, dust, and reflection scatter across the floor, all the same color under the white light. The man doesn't move. He just says quietly, "You see? Even the desert remembers water." Outside, the horizon blurs again. The heat bends light into human shapes that vanish before they're real. You close your eyes, and all you see is red cloth waving in a direction that no longer exists. The wind starts before the session does. You hear it push against the tin roof, a low vibration that moves through the floor, up your legs, into your ribs. The air inside the room grows heavier with each breath, that pre-storm density that makes sound feel slow and physical. The man is already seated. His notebook sits open to a blank page, his pen resting along the spine. The tape recorder is running, though neither of you has spoken yet. The spinning reels are the only proof that time hasn't stopped. He says, almost conversationally, "You didn't sleep." You shake your head. "Dreams?" You hesitate. "Not exactly. More like flashes." He waits. The silence stretches long enough to make the question unnecessary. "Wind," you say finally, "and her shadow moving backward." He nods once, no surprise in his face. "Backward?" "Yes, like the light was changing direction." He writes something down. The scratch of the pen sounds louder than the wind outside. "And in the dream, where are you?" "Nowhere." You pause. "Or everywhere." It's hard to tell the difference out there. He leans forward, elbows on the table again. The mirroring has become habit now. You no longer notice it until you've already matched him. Let's go back to the road, he says. You're driving. You nod. The heat's rising. You stop the car. What's the first thing you feel? You close your eyes. Silence. Then pressure. Like the air was watching me. He loops your words back. The echo quiet and deliberate. Silence. Pressure. The air watching you. You flinch at the repetition. It feels like confession disguised as therapy. She said the same thing once. You add, that the desert has eyes. She said that at the station? No. Earlier. Near the ridge. He looks up. You didn't mention a ridge before. You open your eyes. The room's light has shifted to amber, filtered through dust. Tiny insects, beetles maybe, tap against the window, their bodies striking the glass in rhythmic, dry intervals. It wasn't much, you say, just a rise in the ground. But she stopped there. Why? She said it used to be water. He studies you. Did she seem afraid? You think about that. No, just quiet. He writes something else, then looks up again. Do you remember what you said to her? You swallow hard. The memory comes in fragments, the heat, the taste of salt, the way the air shimmered between you. I said we should turn back. And she smiled, said we'd already gone too far for that. He repeats it softly, as if weighing the truth in the phrasing. Too far for that. The wind outside rises, rattling the shutters. Dust slips through the cracks like smoke. You glance toward the window, watching the horizon dissolve into gold static. He doesn't move. You think she planned it? The question is so sharp you almost don't feel it until after it lands. Planned what? To disappear. You want to laugh, but your throat locks around the sound. No one plans to vanish. He doesn't argue. Instead, he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small object wrapped in cloth. He sets it on the table. Do you recognize this? You unwrap it slowly. Inside, a compass. Old, scratched, its glass cracked. The needle twitches weakly, unable to settle. That was hers, you whisper. He nods. Found it 2 miles east of the gas station. You stare at it. The compass trembles, its needle spinning in short, erratic bursts, like it's allergic to direction. She wouldn't have dropped it. No. She said the desert could trick you, that without a compass, east becomes everywhere. He writes again. You can't see what. The wind slams harder now, dust clattering against the windows like 1,000 small bones. The light turns the color of bruised copper. Tell me what you're thinking, he says. You look up. That I shouldn't have let her walk away. He leans in. Then why did you? You open your mouth, but no words come. Your mind splits between what happened and what should have. The contradiction hangs there, a fracture in logic you can't repair. He lets the silence stretch, another tactic. The storm outside becomes the soundscape of your guilt. She wanted to disappear, you say at last. But I think the desert helped her. He raises an eyebrow. Helped? Yes. Swallow sound, light, distance. You can be 5 feet away and already gone. He closes his notebook gently. Or you can be sitting right here and gone just the same. You don't understand at first. Then you see it, the reflection in the window. Only one figure now, not two. The light flickers, and the room feels suddenly larger. Where did you go? You whisper. He doesn't answer. The chair across from you is empty. The tape recorder whirs, catching only the storm's low roar. You stand slowly, the air thick with dust. You reach for the compass. The needle spins once more, then stops, pointing not east, but toward the door. You open it. The desert is a wall of moving sand, a living thing. It breathes heat into your face, carries the faint scent of rust and water that never was. For a moment, you think you see her again, the red scarf caught in the storm, twisting, then vanishing. You close the door. Back inside, the table is empty. Only the glass remains, half full again. You didn't refill it. You drink. This time, it's cold. You start noticing how the light doesn't behave right anymore. It doesn't bend where it should. doesn't land where it used to. The ceiling flickers in thin strips, white, gold, then nothing. When the power dies for a moment, you think it's the desert closing in, not the electricity giving up. The man isn't in the room when you return. Just the hum of the tape machine, spinning but silent, and a notepad open to a single line. Describe her as if you were her. You read it 3 times. The handwriting is neat, deliberate, as if written to outlast dust. You sit. The chair sighs. Your shadow stretches long across the floor. A strange comfort, proof you still exist. The rule has always been that 2 shadows mean 2 people. You stare until it starts to blur, until the thought loses its edge. You press record. She is 28, you begin. She hates the desert but keeps coming back to it. Says it's honest. It burns away the noise. Your voice sounds steadier than you expect. The air is hot enough to make your skin hum. She carries a compass. You continue. Keeps it on a string around her wrist like a charm. Says direction is a kind of prayer. The wind outside flares again, rattling something loose in the wall. The vibration sounds like a reply. She laughs too loud, you say. When she's nervous, she looks at the sky, not the person she's talking to. She said once that if she ever went missing, it wouldn't be because of someone else. It would be because she finally listened to herself. You pause. The silence afterward feels alive, responsive. You speak again, softer. She's walking east. Every step heavier, but she keeps going. She doesn't look back because she knows I will. That's our difference. I always look back. You hit stop on the recorder. The reel's slow, whispering to a halt. Outside, the heat shifts. The horizon folds into layers. Sky, sand, sky again. Like a mirror reflecting the same wound twice. When the door opens behind you, you don't jump. He steps in, calm, methodical, his sleeves rolled to his elbows as if this were a task instead of a descent. You started without me, he says. You nod. You said to describe her. And you did. Yes. He sits opposite you, setting the recorder between you again. Play it back. You do. The sound of your own voice fills the room, oddly detached, like it belongs to a version of you that learned how to disappear without dying. She is 28. She hates the desert. She keeps coming back to it. When it ends, the man doesn't speak. He just lets the hum linger. You projected, he says finally. What do you mean? You didn't describe her, he replies. You described yourself. You shake your head. No, that was her. He leans forward, the mirror gesture so smooth it feels choreographed. Then why did you use the present tense? You open your mouth, but no sound comes. The contradiction sits between your thoughts like a grain of sand under skin. Small, but impossible to ignore. I didn't notice, you say. You did, he answers. You just didn't stop yourself. He writes something in his notebook again, slow, looping letters you can't quite read. You catch only one word. Identity. He looks up. Do you think she disappeared? Or do you think you did? The question lands soft, but it opens something deep. You look down at your hands. The dust embedded in the lines has darkened to something like ink. I didn't vanish, you whisper. He nods once, almost kindly. You're sure? You glance toward the window. Outside, the world has turned the color of bone. The storm must still be raging, but you can't hear it anymore. Just the faint electrical buzz of static, the desert's own radio frequency. He says, let's test something. He takes out a small hand mirror from the drawer and sets it on the table. The glass is cloudy, edges chipped. Look, you do. The reflection is faint, flickering, as if the mirror resists your outline. For a moment, you think you see her instead, Megan's hair, her red scarf, her eyes half-lidded against sunlight. She's in the reflection, you say. He doesn't answer. She's right there. He keeps writing. Tell me what you see. You lean closer. The glass warps your features. She's smiling. Describe her smile. Like she forgave me before I even asked. And what did you ask for? You blink. I don't know. Yes, you do. You exhale. To not be the one who remembers. The silence afterward feels final. He takes the mirror away, folds it back into the drawer. You can't trade memory, he says quietly. You can only change the name it answers to. You look at the recorder again. The tape reels have stopped, but they're still spinning in your mind. She walks east. You murmur. You walk east, he corrects. The fluorescent light flickers once, then stabilizes. The hum returns low, steady, grounding. The man stands. That's enough for today. He leaves the room without another word. When you glance at the window again, your shadow's still there, long, stretched, uncertain. But next to it, faintly, is another. You don't move. You just watch them both lengthen as the sun goes down, until you can't tell which one belongs to you anymore. Night doesn't fall in the desert. It seeps. The horizon fades inward, a slow darkening that feels like being remembered by something ancient and indifferent. The wind has stopped, but the air still hums. The silence outside is not absence. It's density, like a thick layer of static laid across the sky. The man stands by the tape machine, adjusting the knobs. The reels spin, stuttering between frequencies. A faint voice leaks through. Not quite yours, not quite Megan's. Something in between. You sit across from him, motionless. That's not me, you say. He doesn't look up. Memory doesn't care who it sounds like. The voice on the tape keeps speaking. The same sentence over and over, its edges eroding into noise. East isn't a direction. You swallow. When did she say that? He glances at you. You tell me. You close your eyes, trying to locate the moment, but all you find are fragments. A red scarf against a white sky, a hand shielding light, a word lost in wind. He turns up the volume. The voice becomes a wash of radio static. Somewhere in it, a laugh flickers, too short to be sure. I don't remember recording that, you whisper. You didn't. You look at him sharply. Then who? He cuts you off with a raised hand. Sometimes echoes carry their own signal. Sometimes they return as something else. He presses a button, and the tape reverses. The hum deepens, the pitch dropping until it sounds like wind over an empty road. Then, faintly, another voice. Keep walking east. You feel your stomach tighten. That's her. He stops the tape. Is it? You stand, pacing without realizing it. You heard it. You had to. He folds his arms. Voices blend in feedback. The mind fills in what it needs. You shake your head. No, that was her. She. He interrupts, voice even. Why do you need it to be? The question lands with surgical precision. You look at the window, the reflection of both of you faintly superimposed over the night outside. The stars barely show through the dust. Because if it's her, you say slowly, then I'm not alone in it. He studies you, eyes unreadable. You've built her into the silence. You meet his gaze, and you've built silence into her. For the first time, he looks away. The tape machine hums again, but no sound emerges. Just the mechanical spinning, the faint smell of ozone. He sits back down. Let's talk about the first interview. You blink. What about it? He flips open his notebook, revealing a page you don't remember seeing. There's a transcript, your words, dated 2 days ago, except you don't recall saying half of it. I never said this, you insist. He turns the page toward you. You did. On tape. You read the line aloud. She wasn't lost. I was. That's not. You start, then stop. The sound of your own voice, even written down, feels foreign. He sets the notebook aside. You said something else too. He rewinds the tape again. A click. A breath. Then your own voice, distorted but unmistakable. She said the desert only takes what's already leaving. You remember now, her face in the rearview mirror, sunlight cutting across her jaw, that half smile she wore when she said things too heavy for the moment. She meant me, you whisper. The man doesn't reply. He just watches, the reflection of the tape's red light pulsing in his eyes. Outside, the desert begins to glow faintly, the strange phosphorescence of quartz dust catching starlight. You realize you've been here for days, maybe longer. The concept of day has stopped making sense. He asks, "When did you first hear the static?" You think, "After she disappeared." "Are you sure?" You hesitate. "No." He writes something again. His handwriting has changed, slower, heavier, as if each word costs him effort. You glance back at the tape machine. The reels have stopped, but the static continues, faint and alive, as though the room itself has taken over the recording. You ask quietly, "You hear that too, don't you?" He doesn't answer right away. Then, softly, "It's always been there." You listen. Beneath the static, a rhythm emerges, the cadence of footsteps on sand. Slow, even, eastward. You stand again, drawn toward the sound, but the man speaks before you move. "If you go now, you won't find her." "I'm not trying to find her," you say. He tilts his head. "Then what?" "To see if the desert still remembers me." The static deepens, swallowing the room. The air feels charged, each breath filled with the taste of copper and memory. The man closes his notebook and switches off the recorder. "Tomorrow," he says, "you tell me what it said back." The light flickers. When it steadies, he's gone again. You're alone with the hum. The window glass trembles faintly. Out there, through the distortion, you see two faint shapes walking side by side. Then one. Then none. You press your hand against the glass, and it's warm. You whisper to the static, "Keep walking east." And somewhere, far out in the sound, it whispers back. The next morning doesn't arrive. It drifts in sideways. The light through the window isn't dawn, just the desert dimming from silver to pale gold. You can't tell whether it's sunrise or the sun looping back, replaying itself like the tape. The man's already at the table. The tape machine is gone. In its place sits a topographic map of the valley, corners pinned by small stones, its folds creased into muscle memory. You recognize it immediately. The same map Megan circled. He doesn't speak right away. His silence has changed. Less interrogative. More like he's listening for something outside the room. You sit down. The chair groans in recognition. He points at the red circle on the map. "Here." The ink has bled slightly, spreading outward like something alive. "You said she drew this." You nod. "Tell me what's there." "Nothing," you say. "Just sand." He waits, then gestures toward the compass on the table, the same cracked one from before. "It says otherwise." You look down. The needle twitches weakly, struggling but insistent, pointing north instead of east. You frown. "That's wrong." He leans back. "Or the map is." The room feels off balance, its geometry uncertain. You stare at the compass, then at the window. The horizon line looks bent. The heat out there seems to curve light instead of reflecting it. "You ever been lost?" he asks. You meet his gaze. "I am." He nods once, not as sympathy but acknowledgement. "That's not what I meant. I mean the kind of lost where the world rearranges itself to keep you there." You think of the last day, the ridge, the stillness, the way the sun felt too close. "Maybe she wasn't looking for a way out," you murmur. He draws a small line from the circle to the map's northern edge. Every search team that went out that week followed this route. GPS readings failed past mile 4. Compass needles spun out. You study the line. False north. He looks at you, surprised. "What?" "That's what she called it. The desert's trick. She said there's a place where north turns back on itself, where you can walk forever and still end up behind your own shadow." He folds his arms. "And you believed her?" You hesitate. "No. But I should have." The wind outside rises, soft but persistent. Dust filters through the window seams. You realize there's something rhythmic about the sound, not chaos, but pattern. Like breath. He says, "If she drew this circle, maybe it wasn't a destination. Maybe it was a warning." You lean forward, fingers tracing the edge of the ink. It's rough to the touch, like it's still drying after all these years. "She said the desert doesn't hide people. It keeps them, like stories." He mirrors your movement the way he always does, leaning forward too. "Then what story is keeping you?" The question lands cold. You look at the glass of water beside him, untouched. The light passing through it splits into faint rainbows across the map. Small illusions pretending to be color. You whisper, "Maybe hers." He writes that down. "And you think remembering her is what traps you? Maybe it's what keeps me from disappearing." He stops writing. "That's the same thing." The words hang heavy, dry as bone. You stand, walk to the window. Outside, the horizon trembles. A thin mirage line pulsing like a heartbeat. The wind catches the sound of something distant. Metal scraping metal. "Do you hear that?" you ask. He joins you by the glass. "It's the storm settling." But you know storms don't sound like machinery. You remember that sound. The car door, the engine coughing once, the last mechanical voice before silence. He studies your reflection in the window. What did she say right before she left? You don't want to answer, but the memory insists. She said, "If you don't come after me, don't wait either." He nods slowly, repeating it back, but changing the tense, his favorite trick. She says, "If you don't come after me, don't wait either." You feel it, that shift, the memory living again. You turn from the window. What's the point of all this? The tapes, the questions? He looks genuinely curious. You think this is interrogation? What else could it be? He folds the map, his movements precise. Debrief. Of what? He meets your eyes. Of you. You open your mouth, then stop. Something's wrong with the word itself. It sounds detached, misaligned, like he's addressing someone just beside you. The compass needle jerks violently, spinning, then settling. Not north, not east, but toward the photograph still lying half-buried under the papers. Megan's face, the same one, but now the scarf around her neck is gray, not red. You step closer. The change feels impossible. Why is it different? You ask. He doesn't look. Maybe it never was. You pick up the photo. The edges are warm, the image grainy, as if it's been developed too many times. Behind her, the horizon curves upward, subtly. Not flat, but concave, bending inward toward her. The hum in your ears deepens. "She's facing the wrong way," you whisper. He raises an eyebrow. "Which way is right?" You stare at the compass again. The needle trembles, then points directly at you. For the first time since you arrived, the man looks unsettled. He reaches toward the compass, but before he touches it, the light flickers. The room breathes. The map shifts slightly on the table, as if drawn by a slow exhale. You step back. He whispers, almost to himself, "False north." Outside, the desert glows faintly, the color of old film left in the sun too long. You close your eyes, and for a heartbeat, you can feel her footsteps overlapping yours. You don't know whose shadow came first. The lights in the ranger station have changed. The fluorescent tubes are gone, replaced by a single lantern, the kind used for camping. Its glow too warm for this place. It sits in the center of the table, breathing soft amber over both of you. The hum that once filled the room has thinned into something fragile, almost human. The man gestures toward it. "We'll try this differently today." You don't ask what he means. The shadows the lantern throws are sharp, doubled. Your silhouette split into two that overlap and then drift apart with every shift of your breathing. He sets the compass beside the light. Its cracked glass catches the glow, scattering it into tiny red and gold shards. The needle trembles but doesn't settle. "Tell me what you see," he says. You stare into the lantern. "Light." He nods. "Describe it." "It flickers, like it's alive." "Good. Now tell me what you feel." You hesitate. "Heat, pressure." He leans forward. "And what memory it brings." The words fall like stones into water. You wait for the ripples. "Megan," you say finally. "At night, we had one of these. She said lanterns don't show you what's there. They only remind you of what's not." He notes it down without looking at you. "She said that before she disappeared?" "Yes." He writes again, slowly, deliberately. The scratch of pen against paper is the only rhythm left in the room. "She was cold that night," you continue. "The air dropped fast after sunset. She pulled her jacket tighter but didn't move closer to the fire. She said the light made her nervous. He looks up. Why? She said it made everything else darker. He studies you for a long moment. You agree. You want to say no, but the truth sits between you like the lantern itself. Too bright to ignore. Maybe, you say. He adjusts the wick. The flame elongates, casting the room in orange and gold. The lantern hums faintly, the sound deepening as if it's taking on the voices of the past few nights. He says, "Look at the flame, not the shadow." You do. "Tell me where you are." You blink. The table dissolves. Heat moves sideways. For a second, you're not in the room at all. You're standing at the ridge again, the horizon stretching empty and endless. The lantern's glow has turned white, harsh, trembling. The air tastes of metal and rain that never arrives. "She's here," you whisper. The man's voice follows you, soft but everywhere. "Where?" "East." "What is she doing?" "She's waiting." "For what?" "For me to stop remembering her wrong." You open your eyes. The lantern flickers, sputters, catches again. The man's face is half lit, half vanished. His reflection in the lantern glass looks older, worn by something heavier than years. He says, "Tell me the last thing you said to her." You hesitate. "I told her I'd follow." He tilts his head. "Did you?" You stare into the flame. "Not far enough." He writes that down. Then, as if changing the subject, he asks, "Do you know what the lantern test is?" You shake your head. "It's simple," he says. "You dim the light and see who's still in the room when the dark returns." He reaches forward and lowers the wick. The flame shrinks, the shadows growing larger, heavier, merging with the corners of the room. You whisper, "I don't like this." "Good," he replies. Fear makes the truth louder. The light dims further. The table disappears. The air thickens. You hear breathing that isn't yours. Then, faintly, another voice. "Keep walking east." You jerk upright. "Did you hear that?" He doesn't respond. His outline has gone still, colorless. You stand, knocking the chair backward. The lantern flickers again, its glass vibrating with heat. The flame steadies, then explodes back to life. The room is empty. The man's chair is there, his notebook still open, but every page is blank. The only mark is on the table itself, a ring of ash where the lantern's base once sat. You turn toward the window. Outside, the desert glows faintly with static light, as if the stars have fallen but refuse to cool. And in that light you see her again, walking along the horizon line, red scarf trailing behind her, eastward, always eastward. The compass on the table begins to spin. You whisper, "False north." It stops, points directly at the lantern's fading glow, then goes still. You realize your own reflection is gone from the glass. Only hers remains, crossing the dunes, small and infinite. You sit back down. The light flickers once, twice, then settles. The silence that follows is absolute. The night doesn't end. It only rearranges itself. The lantern burned out hours ago, but its ghost still flickers in the glass. A pale afterimage that refuses to die. The room smells of dust and melted metal. The chair opposite you is no longer empty. He's back. The man, the interrogator, the ranger, whatever shape he's taken tonight, sits in the same posture, elbows on the table, eyes shadowed but steady. His voice arrives first, soft and deliberate. "Do you know what time it is?" You glance at the clock. The second hand trembles, frozen mid-tick. "No," he nods. "Ranger's hour, between night and dawn. Time doesn't move right here." You look toward the window. The sky outside is colorless, not dark, not light. The desert looks like it's holding its breath. It hasn't moved for a while. He folds his hands. "Good. Then we can talk without interruption." The tape recorder sits between you again. The reels don't spin. The red light isn't on. But you can hear it humming anyway, faintly, as though memory has replaced electricity. He says, "We've gone through your account 8 times. You nod. "And each time, something shifts. Memory does that. Not this way." He slides a page across the table. A transcript, your voice reduced to printed sound. Each paragraph begins the same. She walks east. You read the lines. The ink blurs in places, words fading into smudges that look like footprints dissolving in sand. I didn't say it that many times, you whisper. He doesn't argue. Tell me again. You close your eyes. She walks east. Where from? The gas station. He waits. The ridge. He keeps waiting. Finally, you say, here. He nods. Progress. You open your eyes. What do you mean? He turns the page toward you. At the bottom, below your last entry, someone has added one more line in red ink. You walk east. Your throat tightens. I didn't write that. No, he says. But you said it. Last night. The words feel like static against your skin. You want to deny it, but something deeper, quieter, knows he's right. He stands, walks to the window. You told me once that she believed the desert had eyes. You nod. Maybe she was right. He pulls open the blinds. Outside, the horizon glows faintly. Thin veins of light crawling across the dunes, forming shapes that look almost like letters. You can't read them, but they pulse in rhythm with your heartbeat. She's not out there, he says. Not anymore. Then where? He turns back. His expression is unreadable. In here. He taps his temple once. Then, softly, and maybe in mine. You study him. His face looks different now. The edges blurred, as if the desert has begun to work on him too. I don't understand, you say. He sits again, closer this time. The air between you feels thin. You said before that she smiled before she walked away. Maybe she wasn't smiling at you. Then who? The person who'd have to remember. You want to respond, but something shifts in the room. A low-frequency hum, deep and distant, vibrating through the walls. The compass on the table begins to tremble again, its needle twitching in small, frantic jerks. He looks at it. It's moving. You both watch as it spins once, twice, then stops, pointing not toward any cardinal direction, but straight up at the ceiling. He frowns. That's not possible. You whisper, maybe north changed. He almost smiles. Or maybe we did. The hum grows louder. The air feels charged, filled with the smell of hot copper. You realize your reflection in the window has split again. Two shapes, standing side by side. One moves when you do. The other doesn't. The man sees it too. He doesn't blink. You see her. You nod. She's been here the whole time. He exhales slowly. Then say it. Out loud. You turn toward the reflection. Your voice barely holds. Megan Flores. The name ripples across the glass. For a heartbeat, the reflection smiles back. Tired, knowing, forgiving. Then it fades. When you turn back to the man, he's still there. But the chair looks wrong. Like it's holding an outline, not a person. Did you see her too? You ask. He nods once. I think I always have. The hum subsides. The compass stops shaking. The air grows still again, like an exhale that's finally reached its end. You glance at the clock. The second hand moves once, clicks forward, then stops again, a small mercy of progress. He picks up his notebook. One more session, he says quietly. Then we finish. You ask, finish what? He looks toward the horizon, deciding which one of you came back. The tape machine clicks. It's recording again. Neither of you pressed play. Morning, or what passes for it, bleeds through the cracks in the walls. The color is somewhere between gold and ash, too dim to be day, too alive to be night. The desert beyond the window lies still, stretched thin, like an old photograph losing detail. You can't tell if the storm has ended or if it simply learned how to be quiet. The man stands by the door. No notebook, no compass, just the same stillness that's haunted every hour since you arrived. He looks at you with an expression that could be patience or exhaustion. This will be the last one, he says. You nod. The chair beneath you creaks as if to confirm. What happens after? That depends on what you remember. He crosses the room and sets the tape recorder on the table. Its casing is scratched, warped from heat. The reels inside look brittle, as though they've been spun too many times. "Play it," he says. You press the button. The machine hums. The first sound is static, low, dry, constant. Then a voice, your own, layered with another. "She walks east. You walk east." The two sentences fold into each other, indistinguishable, like a reflection trapped in glass. You stop the tape. "I don't remember that second voice." He leans against the wall. "Maybe you weren't supposed to." You stare at him. "Whose voice is it?" He doesn't answer. He just looks toward the window, where the sunlight trembles faintly, divided by the shifting air. "Tell me." You press. He exhales. Sometimes, when a signal repeats long enough, it starts to believe it's real. That's what an echo is. A memory pretending to be alive. You study him. The room feels thinner, stretched by sound. "So which one am I?" He looks back at you, expression unreadable. "That's what we're finding out." You stand slowly, feeling the air grow heavier around you. The tape continues spinning, whispering fragments. Wind, footsteps, your voice, her voice. All of it overlapping until it forms a single sound, breathing. You say, "If she's gone, why can't I stop hearing her?" He closes his eyes. "Because you never stopped walking." The words land like a memory you've tried to forget. You see it again. The road, the glare, the outline of her scarf snapping in the wind. You standing by the car door, paralyzed by sunlight and indecision. You not moving. You whisper, "I did go after her." He opens his eyes. "And?" You shake your head. The light swallowed everything. The air felt thick. The sand pulled at my feet. I kept calling her name, but the wind kept saying it back wrong. He waits. "I found her scarf." You continue. "Half buried. But it wasn't red anymore. It was gray, like it forgot what color meant." You look down at your hands. They're trembling, dust embedded deep into the lines. "I think I stopped there. I think I turned back." He nods slowly. "And when you did, what did you see?" "Nothing," you whisper. "Just heat. And my own shadow, stretched long and wrong." He straightens. "Maybe that's when the story split." "What do you mean?" He gestures at the recorder. Two voices, two timelines. One that kept walking east, and one that stayed behind to remember. You stare at him. "So which one am I?" He looks at the tape still spinning. "You tell me." The question hangs between you, impossible, weightless. Outside, the light grows brighter. The desert begins to hum again. That low, electric sound that always comes before truth. You move to the window. The horizon shimmers, and for a moment you think you see her there, walking, steady, endless. The air bends around her like a halo made of heat. "She's still out there," you say. He joins you by the glass. "Or you're still in here." The silence that follows feels like a confession. You turn back toward the table. The recorder stops. No click, no mechanical sigh, just stillness. The red light fades. When you look up, the man is gone. The chair he occupied is empty, but the shape of his weight remains pressed into the dust. You walk toward the door. It opens easily this time. Outside, the air is cooler, almost forgiving. The sand glows faintly, rippling in the wind, erasing every footprint seconds after it's made. You take a step forward, then another. The horizon swells, not distant, but alive, like it's breathing in time with you. You whisper her name once, softly, "Megan." The desert answers with silence. Then, just before you take another step, you hear your own voice, faint, carried on the wind, coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. "Keep walking east." You smile without knowing why. The heat folds around you. The air tastes of metal and memory. And then you walk. You walk east. The world behind you fades into static. Only the sound of your footsteps remains, slow and steady, until even that is gone. There is no last day in the desert. The horizon always promises one more. The air remains the same, a thin balance between presence and forgetting. What once was interrogation becomes atmosphere. What once was memory becomes mirage. At night, The ranger station glows faintly in the distance, though no one's there to light it. Inside, a tape recorder sits on the table, its reels unmoving. Sometimes, when the wind passes through the cracks, it spins on its own. A whisper of plastic in air, replaying silence. Locals say the dunes shift differently around that place. They say compasses twitch, and the stars overhead lean slightly east. They say a red scarf sometimes appears at the edge of the valley before the wind takes it again. But no one's sure who the stories belong to anymore. The desert is generous with echoes, keeps what it's given, and somewhere, maybe east, maybe just outside of time, two figures walk along the line where heat meets horizon. They never speak. They don't need to. Their shadows merge as the sun bends, and the air around them hums like a memory too proud to fade. If you listen long enough, you might hear the faintest sound. Not words, not static. Just the rhythm of footsteps moving toward a point that doesn't exist. East. Always east.